Get ready to embrace debate. First Take starts now.
I'm Kerry Chow. Here's what's ahead on the First Take podcast. LeBron drops 49 on the Nets, so why should the Heat be concerned? Plus, what should Donald Sterling have said during his CNN interview? And which rookie quarterbacks will be starting when the NFL season kicks off? The First Take podcast starts right now. Welcome into First Take. I'm Kerry Chow, in for Kerry Champion. Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless are in New York, but we got a full house to fill their seats. Starting with Ryan Ruocco, Stephen A. Smith's partner in crime on ESPN Radio New York. Looking good in the seat, of course.
Well, I appreciate that. I had to hold it down for Stephen. He's holding me to a very high standard today. Otherwise, there would have been no pocket square. That's for him.
That is clutch right there. All right, no Skip, but we got Scoop Jackson from ESPN.com and ESPN The Mag. Looking fly as always.
I'm trying, man. We know pocket square.
We actually, we really got dressed together, apparently.
We're trying to show Stephen and Skip how to stay coordinated.
Two purple pocket squares. We're missing out. We don't have pocket squares. John Weiner, you know him as Stu Gatz from ESPN Radio. John, what's up with this?
Forget about pocket squares. I don't even have a tie. I mean, the three of you guys are making me look bad tonight, man.
That is true. You're already falling in last place.
I'm used to that, though, man.
Coming up later, the Redskins' Alfred Morris will also join us at the desk to dish Deshaun Jackson, RG3, and Madden. And Donald Sterling continues to fall down his rabbit hole of idiocy. You won't believe what the disgraced Clippers owner is saying now. Magic Johnson is his main target. But first, we're all witnesses last night. LeBron James set a franchise playoff record and tied a career playoff high with 49 points to lead Miami to a 102-96 win over the Nets, giving the Heat a 3-1 series lead. LeBron was a missed free throw away from 50. Meanwhile, no other Heat player scored more than 15 points. Here's some post-game reaction.
You know, he's taking over the game like that. He's been aggressive. He puts so much pressure on the defense. And obviously, you know, he led us to this win tonight. And all everyone had to do outside of that was just chip in, hit timely shots, do timely things when he's going that way.
He was what was needed, you know, on the road. And that's what makes him, you know, the best player in the game, whatever's needed. And it could be on either side of the game, and sometimes that means facilitating, and sometimes that means just going out of the box and scoring 49.
LeBron clearly clutch, so let's start with Captain Nets over here. Ryan,
I'm still in so much pain from last night, man. I got to tell you, I've been counseling Ryan since about 8 o'clock this morning.
I just keep playing those last possessions over and over again, Gary.
Yeah, what did we learn?
Well, you know, I think first off, we didn't learn, but we were reminded that LeBron James is better at basketball than anybody is at anything. He reminded us of that last night. I think what we did learn, though, is this Heat team is more poachable than the teams over the last couple of years. If you think about LeBron's biggest performances in recent years, when he's played like this, they have won going away. You want to talk about Game 4 in the second round against Indiana a couple years ago when Miami was down 2-1. He had that epic performance. He got a similar performance from Wade. They win going away. You want to talk about Game 6 of the 2012 Eastern Conference Finals against Boston where he scores 45. They crushed the Celtics in that game. This felt a little bit more Cleveland-y, in which he's putting up a game and you're looking at it saying he might go for 50 and they might lose. And that's sort of the way it felt like that Pistons game he had where they did win when he was in Cleveland, or the game against Boston, the Game 7 where they lost. It felt more like that to me, and it was a reminder that he holds much more on his shoulders this year than he has over the last couple. The Nets had a legitimate chance to win that game. They had multiple possessions in the final couple of minutes where tie game, they have the ball. And this is with LeBron packing his biggest punch. That's the first thing I thought is this is a different Heat team that LeBron has to carry through this postseason.
Yeah, my thought was, I mean, LeBron reminded us, Kevin Durant has a trophy, but LeBron James is the best basketball player in the world, and LeBron James is still the MVP, most valuable player. It's interesting what Ryan brings up, because since the first year, since the Big Three came together, going into this season, you thought this was going to be the deepest Heat team. They added Michael Beasley in the offseason. They added Greg Oden in the offseason. A lot of people thought this was going to be the deepest and best Heat team of the last 4 years. It hasn't proven to be that, because they do look like the role players, the bench, some of these guys aren't playing as well as we've seen in years past. They lost Mike Miller in the offseason. But you know what? We criticize LeBron James. A lot of people criticize LeBron James for not being able to summon up the Michael Jordan type attitude to go out and win games. He did that last night. And people are trying to rank this as, you know, where does this fall as far as LeBron's greatest playoff performance? It's not the best, but it's certainly up there. The stakes weren't high enough. If they lose that game, they still go back 2-2 to Miami with a good chance of winning that series. I still say it's Game 6 in Boston with the team up against the wall. They lose that game, they lose the series, they're out, and it's another offseason to be in mock. But what LeBron reminded me last night is, hey, I'm still the best player in the world, and I can get it done scoring 49. I can also get it done, going 20, 12, and 10. So he just reminded me how versatile he is.
Yeah. My thing was that, like saying, it started to feel like Cleveland. I started singing that Christmas song. It's beginning to feel a lot like Cleveland instead of Christmas. I was like, this is bad. And it wasn't that the game was close. It was that he had to score 49. That's what I learned. Is like, you know what? He shouldn't have to do this. Not in a game like this. Not have to score 49, because scoring 25 and having a bunch of assists, but when nobody else is scoring, when you don't have anybody else around you just playing at the level that you're playing, and he hasn't had that in a couple of years, I think it's bad. I'm waiting for him to hit that wall. He's had to do it for almost half a season now. I'm giving him the first half, but on the back half of the season, LeBron has been that team on his shoulders carrying him, and throughout the first round, which was kind of easy, but now you're getting into situations where he's having to carry an entire team and scoring 49 in a game that's meaningful. He can't keep going like this.
What I felt like was, if the Nets would have won that game, all right, it evens up the series 2-2.
Right.
And then also, and you and I talked about this a little before the show, John, the mental blow of LeBron scores 50 and we lose. Does Miami start to think, hold on a second, how do we get this done? That really had a chance to be a legitimate series last night, if not for a couple of poor shot selections from Joe Johnson and Kevin Garnett down the stretch.
But Scoop, I'm confused. Why shouldn't he have to do this? He's the best player in the game, and if he feels like he needs to score 49, and Paul Pierce was talking between Game 3 and 4, and he wanted to make a point to Pierce.
But you shouldn't have to feel that. Look, the one thing
he doesn't do it every night.
But he shouldn't have to do it. He should know. LeBron James has no idea what's going to happen game to game. Most championship teams are built on superstars or everybody knowing their role and then and basically fulfilling those roles. Michael Jordan knew what he was going to get from Pippen, knew what he was going to get from Rodman, knew what he was going to get from Horace Grant. You knew exactly what LeBron has no idea from game to game, I don't think, what he's going to get from his other players. So that's a hard thing to ask a champion to do, to win a championship.
But the greatest winners throughout the history of the NBA, whether it's Magic, whether it's Bird, whether it's Jordan, whether it's Kobe Bryant, they kind of feel that out. And if they feel like they have to get others involved, they do so. And if they feel like they got to score 49 to get a 3-1 lead and get it back to Miami, then that's what the great players do.
Yeah, but they don't feel that way every day.
But he doesn't feel like that.
I bet he does. No. That's the first time he's had to do it, but I bet he feels so. You talk about how you felt?
Yeah.
LeBron was, what you felt watching it. How do you think he felt?
Oh, yeah.
I think he felt pretty good.
Well, I don't think so. No,
I do agree with Scoop in this,
I don't think so.
I think that LeBron's going to have to do that a little bit more in this postseason, if he's challenged, than he has in years past. You think about that Charlotte series is a joke. Al Jefferson playing on one leg.
Right.
That's not a series. This series, Brooklyn has kind of spent the first game especially, and then game 2, they had it for the taking a little bit in fourth quarter in Miami.
Should have won that game.
Okay, yeah. If you look at the 2 games in Brooklyn, the only chance Miami had in either game was when LeBron was absolutely going off. In the first quarter of Game 3, and then he kind of dialed it back, and the Nets just took charge and blew them out. And then the entire game of Game 4. Otherwise, they're 2 road games. They're only 2 competitive road games thus far in this postseason. LeBron has had to do everything. And I was sitting there on the floor last night watching Dwayne Wade. Look, he's got no motor right now.
Nothing.
He's hitting every mid-range jumper. He's savvy in the post.
Almost cost him the game with those 2 turnovers late. Almost cost him the game.
He's huffing and puffing. He just does not. Everybody's waiting for those knees to come back.
Shots not falling on a regular basis. You don't know what.
He's been pretty good this series.
He's been all right. Skip, I'll say this. To your point, I'll say this, okay? I'll say this. You watch LeBron play. There's something looming, something larger than his championship, obviously, that's looming here in the offseason. It's what LeBron is going to do. And you sit there and you watch LeBron James and you think to yourself, is he thinking what you're thinking? Man, I got no help here.
Yes.
This does kind of feel like Mo Williams and the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Exactly. Let me ask you, you're in Miami. Let me ask you this. Have you ever, since the Big 3 or since this whole thing has been put together, have you ever had this much uncertainty with this team?
First season, the unknown, just the first season.
Okay.
I mean, that's it. Since then, no, you really haven't had that uncertainty. I guess you could say Game 6, Eastern Conference going.
No.
There was some uncertainty.
I'm not talking game to game. I'm just talking about just overall. Not knowing what's going to show, what you're going to see every time you watch a game.
No, because Wade's been more consistent. Bosch has been more consistent, and the bench play was more consistent. Losing Mike Miller was a big loss.
And I'm waiting for that one to rear its head, because Mike Miller, this guy shot 60% from three over the last two finals. He is a beast. We saw what he did in round one, pushing us under the break. But can we also, I know he gets pushed to the side a lot, and he doesn't go to the paint anymore, and he doesn't rebound a lot, but can we give Chris Bosh some love?
Yeah.
He hits big time shots. This was a man who wasn't a thought from three until he got to Miami, and even his first couple of years there, he worked at it and worked at it and worked at it. I knew that ball was going in the corner last night.
Even after he missed money in those spots. Even after he missed those two.
Down in Miami, we call him Big Shot Bosh. That's the nickname we've given him, Big Shot Bosh, and he's come through in big spots. But you're right, he did that for two reasons. One, because LeBron likes the spacing on the court and doesn't want Bosh in the paint, and then Bosh said himself, hey, if I can hit this three-point shot at a pretty high clip, it's going to extend my career by 4 or 5 years, and he's right.
He's totally right about it.
I've always said Miami needs to make him the second option on the team. I know it's hard to change your entire offensive structure in the middle of the season, but for me, in order for them to make it easy and know what they're going to get on this team,
he's their second best player.
But they need to make that be known. He needs to get as many touches or more touches. Like Dwayne, we know you're not Dwayne. You need to even mentally slide back to number 3. Chris needs to be averaging 18 points a game. Make sure he gets those touches. He needs to be the option number. They need to physically do that in order for them to.
But guys, back to the original point about LeBron carrying this team, and does that wear on him mentally? Does he think about it? Think about in the biggest spot in last night's game where LeBron's going for 49. He still kicks it out to Chalmers, who I think gets it over to Bosh for that corner three. It's Bosh who hit the big shot that really sealed that victory last night. He didn't have that in Cleveland, Scoop. You know that. He didn't have, I mean, his second best player he ever played with in Cleveland was Mo Williams. He's playing alongside Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh here, 2 Hall of Famers.
Are you guys legitimately concerned for Miami this season to make it to the finals?
If San Antonio's there.
To make it to the finals.
Well, to make it to the finals, no. Because, I mean, listen, it's going to be the Pacers or the Wizards. Probably going to be the Pacers. No, I have no concern. Even without home court advantage, I think the Heat get by the Pacers pretty easily.
Yeah, because we don't know, once again, and we'll talk about this later on, but it's all about Roy Hibbert. You know, if Roy Hibbert stays on pace, then Miami may have a problem. But looking at the Pacers, they can go south really quick. So,
they can still lose the Wizards.
I don't think it's as definite. I really don't. I think you were a poor decision to go ISO Joe Johnson against the best defender in the league, LeBron James, back-to-back possessions from the Nets, and an awful Kevin Garnett shot away from the Nets winning that game, tying up this series, and having a legitimate chance to win this series. Say what you want about 2-2, and they still have 2 games in Miami. I think there would have been some mental, there would have been a little bit of a taking a seat back saying, okay, do we really have control of the series anymore if you're in Miami and you would have lost that game? But then here's the other thing. Forget Brooklyn. Now you're down 3-1, right? Don't worry about that anymore. They would have to pull off a miracle to even get this back to Brooklyn. Think about Indiana. You know, Indiana has been through everything this year, and they're going to come out playing better basketball than they have in half a season, getting ready to play their arch rivals with their center feeling good about himself again, and with home court, which, by the way, they did still end up winning and is a big factor. I am not writing off the Pacers from beating the Heat anymore, not with what I've seen in the way they've handled adversity in this postseason when all of us have written them off.
No, I think maybe the last couple of games, I think you're getting married to that, because in the first round,
but then we were married to a couple games. They got through the first round.
I know, but still, that's a 1 seed on the 8 seed. That's not getting through this shit.
Yeah, but you got to give them credit, because a lot of us said, myself included, raised my hand, hey, they're not mentally tough, and they've proven to be mentally tough.
I think Roy Hibbert come back, but mentally tough against teams that are 8 seeds coming in, and mentally tough against the defending.
Washington.
Scoop, the conversation
we've never been there before. Come on,
man. The conversation with Washington was, you know what, this team actually can push Miami. Now all of a sudden Indiana makes them look immature, and we're going to say it has nothing to do with Indiana?
No. It's a great point by Ryan. I'm glad he brought it up, because what we do is we criticize Indiana. We say they're not mentally tough enough, and we're wrong. And rather than say that we were wrong, we were all wrong. But all of us were wrong. We start pointing fingers at Washington and say, no, it's the first time they've been there. They're not good enough. I'm telling you, before the series, I thought Washington was a more talented team, and I was wrong. We were wrong.
But to me, we're talking about them going up against Miami. That's the thing.
It's as simple as this. What has been the difference in that series? Over the last couple of years, why has Indiana competed with Miami? Roy Hibbert, right?
Right.
And why did Indiana go in the tank? Roy Hibbert. Well, Roy Hibbert's back. This guy is back right now.
I think you all may have more faith in him than I do, because it's been so inconsistent with him, and it wasn't like he just started playing bad in the playoffs. This started at All-Star break. So I don't know how long he's going to be back. If he has a 0 game, if he has another 2 games like he did all of April, we're back here again. So I'm not saying I'm not sold on Indiana, but they haven't proven to me that they are that team right now that can go up against the champs.
We'll leave it right there. The Clippers play tonight, but their band owner, Donald Sterling, was busy making plenty of noise last night. In an interview with CNN's Anderson Cooper, Sterling made his first public comments since his racist remarks were leaked, and he was highly critical of Magic Johnson once again. Take a listen.
What kind of a guy goes to every city, has sex with every girl, then he catches HIV? And is that someone we want to respect and tell our kids about? I think he should be ashamed of himself. I think he should go into the background. What does he do? He works with the Dodgers.
Oh, he's got a
do you know what I do?
Movie
I
theaters
spend millions on giving away and helping minorities. Does he do that? That's one problem I have. Jews, when they get successful, they will help their people. And some of the African Americans, maybe I'll get in trouble again, they don't want to help anybody.
Maybe I'll get in trouble again, Sterling says. Let's be clear, Magic never had AIDS. He has HIV. Scoop, we'll start with you. What's your reaction to this?
I mean, like, Oprah's never done anything for black people. Bob Johnson's never done anything for black people. You know, Magic Johnson hasn't done anything for black people. You know, nobody's ever done anything, and we don't believe in self-help. That's hilarious. I mean, I guess the first reaction to me, outside of getting past the, I love your choice of words. What was it? In a rabbit hole.
Rabbit hole of idiocy.
I love that. It's sort of sadness, you know, because you're looking at somebody who's dealing with an internal issue outside of his racial issues. You're dealing with an internal issue from an owner being basically jealous of another owner. He didn't even give Magic credit for owning. What does he do? Work for the Dodgers? No, he owns the Dodgers. You know, there's a big difference. Yep. And a lot of this has to do with him dealing with Magic Johnson, somebody in L.A. invading space that he used to covet. You know, the buses in L.A., you know, were the team that he always went up against. Now, you know, his team has some shine now, and I'm pretty sure in his mind, I'm the king of ownership now. And now Magic comes in, and Magic's intercepting his space. So now you have a jealous owner who refuses to give another owner any credit for anything that he's doing. And I think that's what's at the core of this. And that's kind of what I got from that. And that's what kind of makes me sad.
By the way, could he pick a worse person to character assassinate than Magic Johnson? I mean, beats HIV, a great smile, affable, incredible athlete, turned into amazing entrepreneur, successful in the media. This guy, you literally could not pick a worse person to target if you're him. And I don't know who is advising Donald Sterling. I don't know if people advise billionaires or they just do what they want to. But he right now, I mean, the only reason you're doing these interviews is for PR. I mean, this is not some kind of legal step to maintain the team. You're trying to cultivate PR because you think it's going to somehow create a swell that can help you in the courtrooms down the road. He has done an atrocious job with that. He obviously hasn't curried any sympathy whatsoever. In fact, all he did was further validate that those comments that he made that we heard originally were not an aberration at all. And this was, I mean, this was so egregious. I just cannot believe, because say what you want about him, you think there's intelligence in there. You don't make all that money without some level of smarts. And this could not have been a worse, more unintelligent decision than the one Donald Sterling made.
I'm with Scoop. It reeks of jealousy. I'll echo what Adam Silver said. I feel bad for Magic Johnson. He's being dragged through this. There's no reason for Magic to be dragged through this. And I love your point, because I was thinking that. Who is advising this guy? But you want to know something, guys? He's 81 years old, and no one's advising, and he's set in his ways. Unfortunately, he's set in his ways, and no one's advising him. And it is really strange to not have an advisor, an attorney, just to go on with Anderson Cooper and let a guy interview, who's a great interviewer, by the way, and let him box you in and let him interview. I mean, if I'm Donald Sterling, I probably just release my own statement and say what I want to say, how I want to say it.
And that's my biggest problem, man. I wish he would have come on Anderson's show and just say, you know what? So what? Just own who he is. You know what I'm saying? Not dance around, try to apologize or do a mea culpa. No.
But he's fighting for his team, though.
But here's the other thing. But he's still not going to lose. Even if he says, so what?
But he's
not going to lose any money. He's going to lose the team anyway. So just say, so what? Own who you are.
Fighting for your team, though. This is the thing, right? If you're really fighting for your team, you're not doing this right now. Your team just came off, you know, its greatest win in playoff history, that Game 4 win against the Thunder, and now you and your wife are going to do separate interviews with high-profile interviewers to take the attention off of the team and onto you. How is that showing affection for the team? It's not. It's showing more selfishness, and it is not helping that cause whatsoever, which once again shows that if he is getting any advice, it is horrendous advice.
Well, I think it's why it's so confusing to so many people, and it's why Scoop is so frustrated by it, because it's not really an apology. It's kind of a fake apology from a guy trying to get his team back, but you have the feeling that, no, this is how I feel. I'm set in my ways. And he's just trying to say whatever he could say to give him some percentage chance of getting the team back. And it's confusing. His strategy in all this is confusing.
It's confusing, and like I said, there's jealousy involved in this. You know, there's also delusion in this.
Of course.
You know, and the funny part was that he had a problem, and he brought up Magic Johnson's extracurricular activities, and the reason we're here is because of your extracurricular activities. You know?
Right. It's true. You know, the other part of this too is I'm not sure he's all there. When you watch him, it's just kind of, I mean, I know his wife has talked about him maybe having some form of dementia. When you watch it, first of all, it's not a very comfortable watch, frankly. But secondly, I don't know that, you know, it's hard to put total validity in everything that he says, which is just another reason why you don't put him out there to speak. So that's one of the things I'm thinking watching this is like, is this guy totally aware of exactly what he is saying?
But watching it last night, I felt like he was aware. They're ramblings. I'm totally with you. And you wonder why he's putting himself out there. No one's putting him out there. He's putting himself out there. So it's not like the Clippers are saying, hey, go speak, or someone's asking him to go talk. But they're ramblings of an 81-year-old man. Yeah, but that's why and we'll all be there one day.
But we have to, I think at this point, we have to really draw the conclusion that just because you have a lot of money doesn't mean you were smart about making your money.
Of course.
You know what I'm saying? So you're looking at the decisions he makes and how he continues to go down this road on his own. And he's been able to buy himself out of almost any situation he's put himself in, and this is one he can't buy, so he has no idea how to act because nobody's ever taught him how to do that. So, you know, as we used to say back in the day, don't let school get in the way of you getting an education. And I think Donald Sterling is at that point where we think because he has billions of dollars that he's a smart individual. No, he's not. You know, not only is he not smart because he doesn't know how to dig himself out of this rabbit hole of idiocy. You know, he's.
Well, you're right, because he's bought himself out of
he's
every,
bought himself out of
rabbit hole
everything,
he's been in.
And now he has no idea how to control the situation.
I'm curious, do you think that this will gain any favor for him being the person who buys the Clippers? Do you think this will create momentum for Magic to be that guy? Because we know.
Well, Magic. I mean, one, we have to stop going to. One, I don't think so. I think Magic may be tapped out. I'm not in his portfolio, so I don't know how much money he has. But you know, he can't be the one black person that saves all black people. I mean, he just spent that money getting a dime.
But he said he's interested in purchasing them.
That wasn't his money. That was.
I know, but we can't keep going to one person. We have.
But Magic's strength is raising the money and getting.
Yeah, if he raises the money, fine. You know, but there's other individuals we can get, other minorities, you know, other, you know, there could be somebody, a woman, there could be somebody else outside to just keep going to Magic because his name is in this to buy the team. Anybody that purchases the team and puts himself in a position to buy this team, as long as it's out of his hands, will be a step in the right direction, because if we could bring race or anything into this, the one thing we need to understand is right and wrong.
It's got to be out of the family's hands, right? Like, the NBA has got to get this done and get it done quickly, because Adam Silver left that door open for current players and coaches who are currently with the Clippers. Hey, come to me in the offseason. If you don't play here anymore, that's fine. We'll discuss it, take it as a case-by-case basis. But they got to get this done quickly, because if they don't, I fear, like Doc Rivers, Chris Paul, going to Adam Silver after the season saying, hey, I don't want to play for them anymore.
Real quickly, why is it taking the owners so long to vote on booting Sterling?
I don't think they want to do it in the middle of the postseason. First of all, I don't know how easy it is to get them all together, but I would just think that you want to wait until after your postseason happens. And if there weren't these interviews, I think the story kind of would have been put on hold and it would have been picked back up at the end of the postseason. But because, you know, Donald and Shelley Sterling wanted to do these interviews, they give the story new legs and more life. So maybe it will end up having to expedite the vote.
And if he was true to what he says, I love my team, I love this league, then he would be gone.
It seems like he wants to do that, though. It seems like he's, at least from that interview last night, hey, I should probably do whatever the league wants me to do.
Let's hope.
Let's hope.
We'll leave it at that. A couple of quick responses. Magic Johnson did tweet, I'd rather be talking about these great NBA playoffs than Donald Sterling's interview. He also mentioned, after this week, no more Sterling talk, just the NBA playoffs, my Dodgers, and my Sparks. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver also had a response. He said, I just read a transcript of Donald Sterling's interview with Anderson Cooper, and while Magic Johnson doesn't need me to, I feel compelled on behalf of the NBA family to apologize to him that he continues to be dragged into this situation and be degraded by such a malicious and personal attack. The NBA Board of Governors is continuing with its process to remove Mr. Sterling as expeditiously as possible. We'll see if that holds true.
True.
The expectation for Johnny Manziel on the field is simple in my mind. It really comes down to a couple of things. Number one, does he earn the opportunity? Does he come in? Does he put in the work? Does he demonstrate that his talents are worthy of him becoming a starter? He has to beat out a young man that's here in Brian Hoyer. He's going to have to work and demonstrate that he's the guy to be the guy. If those things don't happen, he won't play. That's the reality of the National Football League.
We were very frank with him on Friday.
All right, the Browns are hoping to witness greatness after selecting Johnny Manziel with the 22nd overall pick. But what do you make of these comments? They're saying, hey, Johnny, you're the backup. John, we'll start with you. Are these comments fair?
No, they're not fair. It's a strange thing that they're doing here with Johnny Manziel. You drafted Johnny Manziel because he's Johnny Manziel. Let him be and act like Johnny Manziel. Johnny Manziel clearly thinks that he's the starter. And this is the best and most exciting thing that's happened to the Cleveland Browns. Realize who you are. You're the Cleveland Browns. This energized your fan base. This sold season tickets. This had people going to buy Johnny Manziel's jersey, and Johnny Manziel thinks he's the starter and should think that he's the starter. There's not an established quarterback in Cleveland right now, Tom Brady or Peyton Manning or anyone even close to that. It's Brian Hoyer. And I'll remind all of you, Brian Hoyer had one good game last year. A single good game, and we're talking about Johnny Manziel has to beat out Brian Hoyer. Let Johnny be Johnny. That's what you're drafting him for, man.
I agree with you, but only to a certain extent. Sometimes I think owners and general managers understand their personnel, and in this situation, the last thing they want is Johnny's head to get bigger.
Right.
Sometimes you got to
there, Scoop.
and that's why they have to put him in check early to make sure it doesn't get any bigger. You know, you can't have this cat come in and already have a sense of entitlement, more than the sense of entitlement he's already coming in with. So look, let's bring this dude down a little bit before we just hand him the keys
but you know
to this
what?
whole thing.
You brought him down when you picked him 22nd.
You didn't bring him down. No, the league brought him down.
You passed on him. You yourself passed on him earlier in the draft.
The whole league did that.
You passed on him at 4, and then you passed on him at 8.
Exactly
he knew he wasn't going at 4 to them.
No, he didn't know that.
Right. So what I'm saying is that I don't associate that with them doing their thing to bring him down.
Here's my thing. Is that a welcoming? Like, I mean, as soon as can you imagine ESPN's like, oh, you know, Scoop, we're so glad to have you here. By the way, don't do this, and you'll be lucky to do that. Why do I want to be a part of this?
But no, if I came in with, if they had a feeling that I was going to be out of control, and this is their way just to get my mind right, because keep in mind, they're not saying that it's actually going to happen. They're just putting it out there so that he knows.
But don't we think that's part of what makes him great? Like, you suck away his personality.
I don't think you do that. Then his personality is weak. If he can't handle this, then he can't handle it.
But Scoop, you remember what Tom Brady said to Robert Kraft upon being drafted? Remember what he said to him?
Yeah.
He said, this is going to be, this is going to prove out to be the greatest selection you've ever made. Like, that's confidence and that's cockiness, and that's what I want from my quarterback.
But Tom Brady was nowhere close to having the outward arrogance that Johnny Manziel
Yeah, but here's the
does.
thing. That outward arrogance, and sometimes the decision-making isn't great. I'm not saying it is. You don't need to be Instagramming photos of doing this, that, and the other thing constantly. There are certain choices you can make. But the overall attitude with Johnny Manziel, it needs to remain the same. That's why he's great. He's fearless on the football field. This isn't a guy who's 6'5", who has a cannon for an arm, whose pocket presence is wonderful. It's everything about Johnny that makes him great. And you're already trying to thwart the reason that you just sold all those season tickets. It is an awful decision. They need to back up. He absolutely needs to be the starter.
They need to humble him.
I think it'd be great week 1. I don't even know if Cleveland plays at home week 1, but if you go to that game and everyone in the stadium is wearing a Johnny Manziel jersey and Brian Hoyer is the starter.
You all know as well as I do, Johnny Manziel is going to probably start game 1. You all know that, but this is 4 days after he's been drafted. Look, let's make sure we do let's humble this kid. That's all I'm saying. They're like,
I don't think
psychologically, let's humble this.
Is that making him feel not welcome?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Nah, I think it's humbling.
You guys are kind of ganging up on Scoop over here. So let me team up over here.
I can take it. It's easy.
How do you guys instill discipline or make sure he doesn't feel entitled then if you don't
Competition.
say
Competition. It's an open competition. You know, we saw 3 somewhat nondescript games from Hoyer last year, which everybody's acting like, well, what could the Browns have been if Hoyer didn't go down after his 3 starts? But let's see. Let's see what you have. It's an open competition. You don't need to go in, he's the backup. Or how about, the owner saying, this isn't Hollywood. Like, that doesn't need to be said right now.
But that goes to my point. that they're trying to reel in this ego that has.
Why? Why do they feel the need to do it?
Because they don't want it to go out of control.
But you drafted the ego. The ego is part of what makes Johnny Manziel Johnny football. That's what makes him him.
But you know, the one thing that we all can agree on, the biggest question mark around Johnny Manziel right now is he going to listen?
Right.
We can all agree on that, right? So here's the thing. If you're going in knowing that there may be a situation where he's not going to listen because this ego that he's created, that he actually has, is in the way, what can we do to bring this ego down so that we can make him listen? If this is part of their strategy to get him to that point, fine. I don't think he's not going to start. I just think they want him to come in not understanding. Look, it's all.
But here's the other problem with that I have, Scoop. It's one thing if you know a guy and you know how to bat them down after dealing with them for months, years, weeks, whatever it is. This player has not been a part of your organization. So I would say the main motivation for reacting in this way is what? Media reports and what's been said about him. So for me, that speaks to some organizational problems if you are going to react to the way the media treats a certain person. Let me get him into my facility. Let me see for myself what Johnny Manziel is like.
Scoop, it's so odd. He energized a fan base. Again, people went out and bought tickets, people went out and bought jerseys, and then the next day you come out and say, well, Johnny's our backup.
Yeah.
It's just an odd thing to get, like,
you got to play out on the field and let the fans be excited.
Once again, I think this is more about them dealing with him and his perceived personality coming in and trying to have
perceived personality. Go see what it's like. Go get him in the room, see what it's like, and then deal with it how you need to.
Yeah,
I think they did their research. I mean, they drafted the guy, so they did research leading up to it.
We think he's going to be a heck of a ball player. There's no doubt about it. So they would be stupid not to draft him, since they had a second chance at him when everybody else passed on him. That would be stupid. I'm thinking that just, look, let's humble him before God humbles him. And what I'm saying about perceived, I'm not saying he's not an angel. And we see some of the things that he does just in his personality that come out that may need some, I can say the same thing about Deshaun Jackson. You need the same type of humbling. But I don't want to, if Deshaun Jackson comes into the league, and he did basically, with the same type of Johnny Manziel attitude, and if the Philadelphia Eagles basically said, here are the keys to the organization, do you know how that could have gone that way? And that to me is the exact same thing. And Deshaun Jackson is still one of the best players in the league. But if you give him that at 20 years old and you turn over a franchise to him and tell him, behold,
you're talking about two extremes. You don't need to give him the keys to the organization. You could just not, throw him under the rug right away.
I don't think that's throwing him under the rug. I think that's humbling him.
Ultimately, what's going to humble Johnny Manziel, to Ryan's point earlier, and it's a good one, is on the field play. If he goes 13 of 35 with 3 interceptions his first game, that's going to humble him quickly, okay? None of this stuff. I mean, you're not going to humble the guy. He's a confident kid.
There's a small fine line between confidence and ego and arrogance, and I think this is their first step in trying to just let him know, hey, we're not going to, you're not going to come in here and run over this organization. It's a bad organization.
Oh, yeah.
But you can't come in and run it just like that, not in your head.
Real quickly, on a scale of 1 to 10, how concerned are you of Johnny Manziel's character/personality?
4.
1.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not concerned about it at all. Yeah. I'm only speaking on behalf of the
concerned about it at all. I'm not.
I'm saying no. We're asking questions what the Cleveland Browns are doing. Not asking me. I say asking what the Cleveland Browns and why they did. I'm trying to explain why I think they did what they did. Not me. Personally, I have no concern with him.
I mean, I'm inconsistent, but that was pretty inconsistent.
Well, say this, the Browns certainly do need a new starting quarterback because they've used 20 since returning to the NFL in 1999. That's easily the most in the league.
Seems like a lot.
Alfred Morris, Redskins running back, joining us now at the desk. He's here on behalf of the Madden NFL 15 cover vote, where he's one of 16 hopefuls vying for the cover of the latest Madden video game. Log on to ESPN.com/MaddenVote now to vote for Alfred, and maybe others, but mainly to vote for Alfred.
Yes,
right? Yeah. Great to have you at the desk, man.
Thanks for having me. Oh, this is awesome.
You're not scared of the jinx, man?
No, I'm not scared of the jinx.
You bad man.
No, look, okay, I think that's just all a mindset when people like, the Madden curse. First of all, second of all, Calvin Johnson has already broken that so-called curse.
He shattered the curse.
Yeah, he did. He actually broke the record. So if anything, I should want to be on the cover. I'm going to break a record.
Absolutely. Hey, let's talk about your future here in the Redskins this upcoming season. A lot of changes this offseason, new head coach. What are the expectations in Washington?
A lot higher, not only from the fans, but from us. We had a disappointing year last year, to say the least. 3-13 after coming off of such a great year the year before, winning 7 games in a row to make to the postseason. That was We was riding on, cloud 9 at that point, and then we fell short versus the Seahawks. But to come back the next year, having such high expectations, and to fall so short, it was rough. It was a tough pill to swallow. So now we have high expectations this year, but it's just a different feel, a different vibe in the locker room, and I'm excited about what we're capable, what we can do this year, and what we're going to do.
What is the different vibe that you're talking about?
I really don't know. It's just the feel. You just got to be to feel it. It's just a different atmosphere now. They did a great job of getting some players in the free agency, and I think they did a good job of in the draft as well, getting some key needs that we needed. And I'm just excited about putting all this together. We already gelling and meshing as a team, and we haven't even played a game yet.
But doesn't it all come down to, Alfred, the health of your quarterback? Because I have to say, I mean, watching him his rookie year, and I was at that game at MetLife Stadium when Victor Cruz had a late touchdown, beat you guys, but RG3 stole the show. And I remember that giant locker room afterwards, everyone's like, oh my gosh, this guy's unbelievable. And watching him that year was incredible. But last year, he looked like a shell of himself. And I'm just thinking, how can you be what you guys were in his rookie year if he is not his healthy self?
That's a good question. I guess in a sense, we can't. Because he is our leader, as he go, we go. So it's kind of saying that we use, but I know he's going to be back to his form from his rookie year, even better. He's running so much better. He's feeling so much better. His attitude has changed, and I'm just excited what he's going to be able to accomplish this year, and just us as a team, what we can accomplish. It just comes down to how bad do we want it, to be honest with you, and how hard are we willing to fight for what we want, and that's to get back to the postseason, to get to the Super Bowl, which is every team's dream. We all start off 0-0.
Have you seen RG3 at all the offseason? Have you gotten a chance to take a look at him or talked with him about how he is moving?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, we've been in the all-season program
you've been in
April 7th, so we've been at it for a while, and he's running like a champ. He's back in his normal form. I feel like the year when he did come off his ACL surgery, as the season progressed, as the game progressed, he slowly got back into more and more comfortable being on his knee, getting back to himself. And as you saw the season progress, he kind of got more and more comfortable. You saw him doing some of the things he did the year before. So this year, like, all that is great. There's no progression now. He's already back to where he was, and now it's building off of that, building off of what he was able to do the first year, and just omitting last year, because that nobody wants to remember that.
That's what I was going to ask you. Is that really the big difference? Is last year at this point in time, he was coming off of an injury, and y'all didn't know how he was going to recover from that, but now it's a whole different mindset because you were going in thinking, all right, he's healthy, we got this. Is that the real change?
Yes, that's one of the real changes, and plus with the coaches and running a new scheme, and they, in a sense, putting us in the best position for us to be successful. I think using some of the players they got, like with Deshaun Jackson and Hatcher, and just the schemes to make those players fit into what they want to accomplish, I think is going to be great for us. They've made a lot of changes in the pass game, run game, and I think overall it's going to be great for us, especially having Robert back healthy.
I want to get back to that vibe that you were talking about earlier. Can you articulate the vibe and what it was under Mike Shanahan, and how was it different?
It's two different coaches, and it's just like, I think just the aura of the team is just different. Had nothing to do with Coach Shanahan or Coach Jay Gruden. It's just a different mindset now. I feel like it is. It's just after coming out from my first rookie year to last year, we were up, and then we went down, and now we want to get back up, and just the team as a whole mindset wanted to get back to the postseason, wanted to get back to that feeling of like, man, I love playing this game, I love being successful at this game, and we want to bring a trophy home to Redskins Nation.
I got to ask you about the car, because Alfred really should. I've been dying to ask you about it, because Alfred should be our financial advisor, all of our financial advisors, because he's very responsible with his money. But for those of you who don't know, Alfred still has the same car that you had, because you're from where I'm from, down in South Florida, and you still have the same car that you had in college. It's a Mazda that you call Bentley. Do you still have that car?
I still have my baby.
But Mazda did something. They souped it up for you, didn't they?
They didn't soup it up. They pretty much refurbished it. Anything they could make new, they did. Like, I used to have cloth interior. They changed it to leather interior. Like, it was hand stitched. So it was kind of.
So wait, if there's anything else you wanted, now would be a good time to say it.
No, it's not just the way it is.
you're stacking your money. You good? You find you good? You got money? You got.
I'm doing my best to make sure.
Because look, we're trying to find somebody to buy the Clippers, family.
No, thank you. I don't want to be an owner.
Are you? So you're still driving it?
I am.
Okay.
I am. It's my only car. The only car I own. So yes, my baby. Eventually, I will get another car, but I'm in no rush. Like I said earlier, I'm still getting from point A to point B, so I'm fine with that. I don't drive far.
All right. Let's talk more football here. The Eagles won the division last year, but who should be the favorites for the NFC East next season?
Redskins, of course.
Why? What have you guys done?
It goes back to just the mindset that we have, just the whole feel, that vibe that we have is very different, and we're hungrier now. I don't know if hungry is a real word, but if it's not, I just made it up.
You sold it nicely.
But like just that drive we have to want to get back to the postseason, to want to get to the big dance, which is the Super Bowl. I think is very different, and just the coaches doing a great job of finding some gems such as Deshaun Jackson in the free agency. I still don't know why they let Deshaun Jackson go. Thank you though.
Here's my question. Do you think it's going to take more than 9 or 10 wins to win the division this year?
Our division is always tough.
I know.
It's always tough. A lot of people are like, oh, the NFC East sucks. No. We just have a good division.
Y'all beat each other down, right.
It's going to be tough. So it probably will take more than 9 or 10 wins to win it. If not, you're not going to be in the running. You're going to be in the back.
Well, of the other 3 teams in your division, you look at which team and say, man, that's the toughest team for us to deal with. They're as talented or more talented than we are.
I would say the Cowboys. That's always a must-win for us.
Right.
If you don't beat anybody else, you beat the Cowboys, and they always do a great job of. No matter what our record is, we always play them well. They always play us well, and you always know it's going to be a knockout, drag-out when Cowboys and Redskins meet.
But see, that sounds though like if they went 2-14 and beat the Cowboys, he's gonna be happy with it.
Sounds like Michigan, Ohio State.
Here's my thing: you're not sitting there, and I understand the head-to-head matchups, but you're not sitting there looking at the rest of the division and then looking at the Cowboys and saying, look, I know somehow they're going to find their way to 8-8 anyway. I don't really have to worry about Dallas winning the division. You're not saying that a little bit?
No. We go into every game. Well, me personally, go into every game. We're going to win this game. Go in not underestimating anybody, because any given Sunday you can win, lose. So we just go in there to do our best, to fight to the end, pretty much. I know it sounds like, oh, it's so cliche, but it's not. I mean, that's just what we do, and you can't, especially in this league, everyone's good. I always feel like, oh, this team sucks, that team sucks. No, if you're in the NFL, you're good. It's just like the talent level is so much higher, so great, such more talent than kind of pooled into 32 teams. Of course, somebody's going to have to lose, at the end of the day. So we just go into every game with the mindset of we have to win. We want to control the division, and we take it one game at a time.
See, my biggest concern would be the Giants, because it seems like Giants are on 1 year, off 1 year, on 1 year, and this is since it was so bad last year. If I'm you, I'll say, okay, this may be a good year for the Giants. They may pull it all together. That would be the team I'd be most fearful of.
We'll keep that in mind.
What do you make?
It's like not biting.
Right. What do you make of the state of the running back position in the NFL this year? Running back was drafted, I believe it was the second round, the latest a running back has ever gone in the NFL draft. What do you make of the state of that position where GMs don't seem to feel like it's as important as it used to be?
It hurts my heart being a running back. It seems like we get no love at times, but we're so important to an offense. You get a good ground attack, it's going to open up your passing game, especially with play action. It's something that I guess a lot of teams don't utilize because they're not utilizing their ground game. But running backs are always going to be needed, whether they want to value them high or value them low. We're going to be needed. Without a running back, your offense won't be able to go the way it should go. And, I mean, sometimes you have, like, exceptions. Like, a couple times the Patriots got away without a run game but winning the Super Bowl. But eventually it catches up with you in the long run. So I think it was a down year. Life is a roller coaster ride. Being a running back can be a roller coaster. Some years you're up. My year they had a bunch of running backs go in the first 2 rounds. And then now it's taking a dip. But it's going to always go back up. You got to show love to the running back.
Do you take that on the field with you? That mentality, like I have to prove to them that we're still valuable?
No, I don't. I just go out there and just play my game. I love what I do. I honestly do. And just to be able to go out there and play the game that I love on such a high level, it's an honor. And a lot of people take it for granted, but I don't. And I just love it. I never feel like I have to prove anything to anybody. I know what I'm capable of doing.
Right.
If you find out later than some people, that's your fault.
I love what you do, and you're awfully good at it. Alfred Morris, thanks so much for joining us at the desk. And everyone, be sure to watch NFL Live on Thursday, May 15th, to see who advances to the quarterfinals of that Madden cover vote. So good luck on that.
Yeah, good luck.
Yes, and please vote. And remember, the first round votes is over on Thursday, so vote now. Don't waste time.
Vote Morris right there.
Give financial advice for votes.
Yeah, maybe I should.
With the third pick, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Blake Bortles. The Cleveland Browns select Johnny Manziel.
I like the fact Cleveland came back up and got the young quarterback.
The Minnesota Vikings select Teddy Bridgewater.
After waiting tonight, I have that chip on my shoulder and I'm ready to get to work.
With the 36th pick, the Raiders select Jared Goff.
With the 135th pick overall, the Houston Texans select Tom Savage.
We're going to play a little game here. It's called Stardom or Sit 'em. Pretty self-explanatory. You guys want the instructions on that one? I think we're good.
I might do that. We're good.
Yeah.
This isn't about us, is it?
5 quarterbacks. Let's get right to it, starting off with Johnny Manziel. Johnny Football, we already touched on this earlier. Stardom or sit 'em, Ryan?
Oh, I'm starting Johnny Manziel. I mean, first of all, just for the poor Browns fans, can you give them something to root for?
Right.
I'm sorry Brian Hoyer isn't getting anybody in the seats, but more so, if there was one common denominator of analysis that we heard from every draft expert and every NFL analyst leading into the draft, it was, if you are going to have Johnny Manziel as your quarterback, you have to shape your offense around Johnny. That was the one common thing that everybody said. And I don't know how you do that if he's a backup. And I know that we've seen one recent example of it being done on the fly with John Fox and Tim Tebow midseason. But that is a really difficult thing to do, to completely transform your offense to shape to a quarterback that's different than the one you've been preparing for the entire season. So forget the pizzazz and the entertainment standpoint. I think from the football sense, if you want any chance of getting the most out of Johnny Manziel, you start him because you need to operate with an offense that is built around him.
You didn't draft him to sit him. I'm completely with you. You energize the fan base. They're selling jerseys. They're selling tickets with the expectation that when they go to the stadium, Johnny Manziel is going to be the quarterback and not Brian Hoyer. To me, it's a must start. You got to start the guy. It's the Cleveland Browns. They've been bad, and they've been bad for a really long time. And selfishly, I view it through this prism. I want to know right now if Johnny Manziel is good. If his game's going to translate to the NFL. I don't want to wait a year. I don't want to wait 2 years. I want to know week 1 if Manziel is going to be a good NFL quarterback. So selfishly, yes, start him.
Yeah, and I think from a business standpoint, you have to start him. And I started him, too. I said earlier in the other segment, I think he's going to be the starting quarterback. They're just doing this as not a facade, but just to probably do their due diligence to keep the situation in check. But you have to start him. You have to, this is baptism by water, fire, sand, storm. Just throw him out there. Just throw him out there and see what he does. And like I said, outside of football, just from a business standpoint, you made the comment earlier about if everybody shows up in a Manziel jersey in the stands. This is business. The football, but even before football, it's about business. And for the Cleveland Browns, he needs to be out there as often as possible, regardless. Look, they could lose, they could go 1-15. Lose all the games. You still have to ride or die with this guy because he is your franchise.
Yeah, and when you're an organization that needs a lot of pieces, you don't use a first-round pick on a quarterback unless you think he is going to be the guy. And I think the only reason you don't start that guy is if you think he's very fragile mentally, which I don't think Johnny Manziel is at all.
No, not at all.
Or if you're worried about him physically because you have a poor offensive line and you're still building that up and you don't want him to get beat up. Well, Johnny Manziel, the way he plays football, he's impervious to that because he's going to find a way to get hit regardless. That's just how he plays. So I think the 2 legitimate worries you could have, and really the reasons for sitting him, just don't apply in this scenario. So I don't know why you'd sit him. If you're sitting him because you think Brian Hoyer is better, you should have never been drafting him with a first-round pick.
That's exactly right. And the unfortunate thing about what's going to happen here with Johnny Manziel, and we'll see what's going to happen, is Josh Gordon. The fact that you had Josh Gordon, one of the 2 or 3 best wide receivers, had more receiving yards than Calvin Johnson last year. We'll see what happens there. But if he doesn't have Josh Gordon, that's going to be disappointing because you want to see if those 2 can connect.
Just for 1 year, though.
Just for 1 year?
1 year. He's only missed for 1 year.
But some people would say sit Manziel for a year because he doesn't have a lot of talent surrounding him. I'm not one of those guys.
But I just see 1 year. Once Josh comes back, it's going to be a different story. And then Johnny will have a year on his belt. Then we're going to see
unless he smokes more weed, and then who knows? Hopefully that doesn't.
doesn't happen. No. All right, consensus here, stardom. All right, the Jags use the 3rd overall pick on Blake Bortles. Chad Henne's the incumbent there. Bortles, stardom.
Your guy.
Oh, yeah.
Your guy. Chad
well,
Henne,
that's the reason you start Blake Bortles, because you have Chad Henne at quarterback. You know, I mean, I don't need to say anything else. Chad Henne is your quarterback.
So you're going with Bortles.
I'm going with Bortles there, yeah.
So you should like Chad Henne.
You don't sit behind Chad Henne. I mean, that's not something you do. If you sit behind Chad Henne, you'll learn nothing. You'll learn how to throw interceptions and lose football games.
Yeah,
So.
it's also, wasn't the stance a little bit odd of the general manager on Mike said, oh, you know, we don't intend to start him at all this year at any point. I don't know how you take a guy 3rd and don't play him, because I also think about it from this standpoint. If you play Chad Henne, there's like a really good chance you're going to have the top pick next year.
Right.
And then
Exactly.
when Jameis Winston is sitting there, you're not going to know whether or not you should be taking him or not. You probably wouldn't, because you just used a 3rd round pick on a quarterback the year before, but you'll have used that pick on a quarterback that you know nothing about, absolutely nothing. And you might be passing on a generational quarterback for a guy who you weren't even willing to take a look at in year 1.
Right.
You have to start Blake Bortles. And that's another fan base that, you know, my gosh, can you give them something to be excited about? Just a little something? That's kind of been the landmark case of how do we get people in the seats. Well, you know, not playing your number 3 overall pick at quarterback is a great way to keep them out of the seats.
Yeah, I mean, they stunned everyone in the draft when they selected Blake Bortles. And I would say that Jacksonville probably, because of the proximity, because of where he played at UCF, they probably studied Blake Bortles more than any other NFL team did, and probably more so than any other NFL team studied any other player, because they got to see him on a weekly basis. You have to start him. The fan base wants it. You got to start him.
Yeah, and they were happy. Nobody was really talking about him, and there was other talk, you know, about Clowney and, you know, about, you know, Manziel. So he kind of fell up under the radar, so he was there for the taking. The one thing from a football standpoint is the adjustment he's going to have to make from college to pro. But in this situation with the Jags, once again, throw him out there, let him do his thing, you build around him. I don't see how you even think about sitting this dude. You got to play. And no disrespect to Chad Henne. I mean, I know he did his thing down there.
In
Miami, he held your team up, but he can't be your guy. He can't be your guy. Not there. So.
All right, consensus there. Stardom. Let's talk about Vikings. Teddy Bridgewater. He was drafted at the end of the 1st round. Other Vikings quarterbacks: Matt Castle and Christian Ponder. So Bridgewater, stardom or sit him?
I would say stardom. I'm a little bit worried about them playing outdoors this year, but you just do not have good options there in Minnesota. I mean, you really don't. And I think, you know, this guy has been through the ringer. I don't even know how his head has maintained the calm that it has with the way, I mean, last year you were talking about people doing tank for Teddy campaigns this season because he was thought to be the certified number 1 pick. Then you have him, he might fall, you know, to day 2, maybe even the 3rd round, and he ends up in the 1st round. But I just think he actually could use that boost a little bit. I think from his team, it was like, no. We took you in the 1st round. We think you're our guy. There really isn't a good option behind him there in Minnesota. And there are some good pieces with the Vikings that I think you need to take advantage of that have smaller windows. I think you throw them out there and see what you have, because that team really doesn't have an option that's a build for the future option, and he is that guy. Plus, I think he could use that boost. I would like to do that for him mentally.
You know, there was an interesting thing happening during the draft where everyone was focused on Johnny Manziel and the fact that he was falling. There wasn't much of a focus on Teddy Bridgewater, which I found strange because he was falling. And you're right. I mean, a year ago, even, 6 months ago, a lot of people had Teddy Bridgewater as the number 1 quarterback prospect in college football, and then he had his pro days and just started falling. But if you're the Vikings, you absolutely have to start him, in my opinion. Plus, you have the ultimate kind of safety net in Adrian Peterson. Like, if every defense is going to be focused on stopping Adrian and not stopping Teddy Bridgewater, I think it's going to free him up. I think you got to start him.
See, I think sit him. And the only reason I say that is because he can sit and learn from Matt Castle and from Christian Ponder what not to do. What not to do.
Okay, gotcha.
He'll sit there.
All these guys have quarterbacks that they can learn what not to do.
Right. But in this situation, he has 2. Christian Ponder, they gave him a chance. He didn't pan out. Castle's going to come there and try to revitalize his career there. All he has to do is sit for maybe 8 games. Sit there and watch, and all the coaches need to do is sit there like, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. Now go.
Coming this summer, the 2014 FIFA World Cup from Brazil. Every goal. The shot, Jonathan scores! The USA leads by 2! Every save.
Here's Germany up, steal, closer. In the box, the shot is stopped.
Every match. wherever you are this summer, take the FIFA World Cup with you. It's on ESPN Radio and the ESPN Radio app.
I made a terrible, terrible mistake. And I'm here with you today to apologize and to ask for forgiveness for all the people that I've hurt. And I've hurt so many people, so many innocent people. One of the things that I said was, don't bring blacks to my game. Well, there's 25% of my whole game are black people. And I love them. She would always use the word black. That's a black girl, that's a black guy, this is black, that's black. So when she said to me, I'm going to bring 4 gorgeous black guys to the game, players she was referring to, either football or basketball, I was a little jealous maybe. And
When did she say that?
Just before. And I said to her, don't bring them to the game because of my jealousy. I mean, in any event, she never brought anybody to the game. It was like she was baiting me just to say things.
The NBA says they want you out. Are you willing to give up ownership of the Clippers?
Well, I'm not sure that's what they want. I'm a good owner. I have a good team. There are people that want to buy my team. But because the media says that the owners want me out doesn't mean that they want me out.
Have you talked to any of the owners? Any of the other owners?
I've talked to some of the owners.
Have any of them supported you and said that they don't want you out?
Of course they support me. They can't understand why I would say that. I can't understand why I would say
So you're
that.
saying there are some owners of NBA teams who want you to remain the owner of the Clippers?
I don't speak for the league or for the owners. They speak for
But have
themselves.
any owners told you that?
I didn't ask them. I embarrassed the league. I humiliated them. I don't know why I did it. I mean, it's so terrible. And
So you don't believe, though, that the owners would vote to have you removed as owner?
I don't think so. The players don't hate me. The sponsors don't hate me.
You don't believe
the
players?
fans don't hate me. The media hates. The media, it's all the media pushing it.
You really,
I mean,
but really, honestly, you really believe that?
I believe it 100%.
In Donald Sterling's first public interview since the recording of his Racist Remarks were released, he attempted to apologize and claim he wasn't racist on CNN's Anderson Cooper 360, as you just saw. But as we heard earlier, he remained critical of Magic Johnson and African Americans. Doc Rivers heard about Sterling's latest comments from the interview and was not buying his so-called apology, saying this, I know who Magic is. I'll stand by Magic every day of the year because I've known him for a long time. Having said that, I don't know what's going on out there. I tried not to get involved in that part of it right now. Whatever it is, that doesn't sound like much of an apology to me. Scoop, we'll start with you. What do you think? How should Donald Sterling have handled this?
I said it earlier. I thought he just should have owned it from the beginning and just said and just walked away. Like, what do you want? This is who I am. You know, and he continues to prove who he is. You know, as a black man, it bothers me that we're sitting up here talking about this. You know, because I have to still listen to this. And I have to give my time and spend time talking about that ignorance and that, yeah, so, you know, I wish he would have just, and I still wish he'd do it, just like, look, I'm not trying to get an apology, this is who I am. You know, and he can't even call himself a racist because he doesn't even know what racism is. He still doesn't get it, and I don't think he'll ever get it, so what he should have done was just say, yeah, that's it, I said it, I meant it, that's it. At least he would have owned it, you know, and I would have had some respect for that, not necessarily for him, but for that. But since he didn't do it, you know, we have to sit up here and listen and give time and energy to this.
Scoop, I want to be clear on that. You would have respect if he sat up there and just owned it?
Yeah.
Respect for the man?
No, I did. I said not respect for him, respect for it. I was clear on that. Yeah.
Okay, good.
No.
He's in denial. There's no doubt he's absolutely in denial. And he wanted to get some things off his chest. Like, he's torn between an apology and what he really believes and what he really wants to say.
And you see it sneaking out as he gets deeper and deeper into thought.
Right.
And
which makes you wonder his strategy and why he agreed to do this interview with Anderson Cooper in the first place. I said it earlier and I say it again, control your own message. If you want to say something, say it, issue it in a statement, and don't sit there with Anderson Cooper for an hour and let him box you into several different corners, which you did last night.
Well, it was almost like he called everybody together to validate his racism. That's what it felt like to me. Like, oh, you thought I was racist? Wait till you hear what I have to say about Magic. Then you'll really think. I mean, if you just, you know, what he said at one point about Magic when he said, you know, Jews, when they get successful, they will help their people. And some of the African Americans, maybe I'll get in trouble trouble again, they don't want to help anybody. I mean, like, he obviously lacks awareness. There's also, he has these thoughts. They are now prevalent in more than one area, and I just feel like every time he speaks, he is digging deeper and deeper. And what he said about the media, I think there's something to that. Like, as equally scary to me as it is to have a man in power with the thoughts and beliefs as he is, it's scary to me how the mob mentality we get in the media, where we all collectively decide that an opportunity is here and we'll all fight for some cause in a moment that we don't really care about, but it's an opportunity for talking heads and everything, so we go to bat for a while, and then once it's taken care of and we get whatever resolution, whoever fire that we want to do, we go away and never care about the issue again until another opportunity arises. That mob mentality that we do perpetuate in the media, that scares me. I agree with him about that, but it doesn't change the fact that his own thought process is very real and very scary as well.
Let me be clear, it doesn't change anything, you're right, but I think that is an interesting element of all of this, is how the media has decided to pounce on Donald Sterling, because there's audio and it's easy, and I flipped over to CNN to see reaction last night, and there was a bunch of black and white sitting around, panelists, and laughing. He's such an easy target at this point, and as Bomani Jones said on our radio show, you know, on the list of bad things that Donald Sterling has done, what he said on those audio tapes is like 5th or 6th on that list.
Exactly.
And this is the one we've decided to pounce on.
And here's the thing about the media. It's interesting to see how they're not, I haven't seen any of us, and I'm including this in the media conversation, move forward on what he's exactly said. First, it was a comment about his friends.
Right.
And being embarrassed by his friends if they saw somebody black, you know, at whatever. You know, so now we're going to this situation where he's on Anderson Cooper. Of course, has any of the media gone and started the legwork to find out who other owners he has talked to? Who has actually told him what he said he has been told, that they'll stand by his side? They may stand by his side right now, but they're not going to vote for him, I'm pretty sure. But if the media is doing its job and not just pouncing, we'll do our investigative work and find out, okay, what owners did he talk to? Who is, you know, in line with him? Who's agreeing with him?
Right.
And expose all of that. The one thing we can't do, and I kind of feel what you're saying about Donald Sterling is not the only one. He just happens to be the poster of this right now.
Well, he's the one on tape.
Right, he's the one on tape. But once again, if we read into what he's saying, friends, billionaires hang with billionaires, so I'm pretty sure when he said friends on the earlier tape that got exposed, he's talking about other possible owners, possible billionaires who are in the same position and have the same power that he does. Right now, he just said with Anderson Cooper, I've spoken to other owners. You know what I'm saying? He said that they're with him to a certain degree. Okay. Stop pouncing on Donald Sterling and let's do our media job and find out who these people are and expose everything.
See, because if you were actually offended, if it actually mattered to you, that's exactly what you do. You would want to find those people and get them out. But the truth of the matter is, 95% of us who talk about this really don't care that an old white man is racist.
Right.
We just see it as an opportunity to talk about an interesting talking point. Right. Now, there are a big faction of people who are deeply offended by what he said, and certainly for the league, they are very much invested in not having somebody like that associated with them owning one of their properties. But the vast majority of the people who get to speak about this, does it really affect you what Donald Sterling says or doesn't say, or offend you? I mean, for the most part, no, it doesn't.
But from the media standpoint, the bigger story is who's going to follow and give the second part to what he said later.
Right, somebody who really cares.
But speaking of the things the media should look into, because I found this part of it fascinating, that right after those audio tapes were released, Donald Sterling says Magic Johnson called him not once, but called him twice, and I'd be interested. And they didn't really give too much as to what those conversations, what happened during those conversations. I'd be interested to know what happened during those conversations, because the first thing I thought is, why is Magic Johnson calling Donald Sterling?
Right. It should be very similar to what Adam Silver did. He said, once I asked him a question, is this you on the tape? That's all I need to know.
Right.
And keep it moving. Magic should have been the exact same way, but let's see what happens. It's interesting now. What was that conversation, especially in light of what he just said about Magic?
Right.
If the NBA gets its way and does boot Sterling, is there any satisfaction there?
From who?
From you. Like, are you satisfied that Donald Sterling is no longer over?
I'm satisfied that the process did what it was supposed to do, and it stood to the side of what's right. You know, that this wasn't necessarily personal with Donald Sterling. It just did what to decide what's right. And the best thing the NBA is going to do is protect his brand. And if they think Donald Sterling is a threat to that, then they're doing what's in the best interest of the league. And yeah, I applaud that.
but it's just kind of scratching the surface as opposed to not finding out those NBA.
Once again, he did say friends in the first tape. He just said he spoke to other owners in the second tape. If we are the media and we say we're doing what we're doing and we're standing behind what our jobs and our responsibilities are, it doesn't stop with him.
I think there's universal appreciation for what Silver's done. He's quickly become, in like 2 months, the most popular commissioner in sports. When do you see a commissioner go anywhere and get standing ovations the way he's getting standing ovations?
Handled it great. Yeah, let's talk about the Clippers actually on the court. They return to OKC tonight. Game 5 series tied at 2. Who wins tonight? Scoop, we'll start with you.
Well, you know what? I picked the Clippers at the beginning of the season to win the whole thing, so I'm riding with that. You know, seriously, I think the way the last game ended may have an impact on OKC. They, much like we spoke about LeBron earlier about carrying so much weight, I think the same thing applies offensively with OKC. It's either Westbrook or Durant, and they have to carry the weight, and I don't know if they continually do that. They tried to do it the last game. I'm pretty sure that Doc is not going to throw Chris Paul on Kevin Durant again. That was a one-off. I think, you know, they're going to figure out how to do something with that, but they're going to give him different defensive looks. But unless somebody else steps up offensively to help Westbrook and Durant, then I find it very difficult for them to come out of this series, especially come out of this game.
You know, I still think that they will win this game, and I still think they will win this series because I think they've had an easier time building leads, and I think for the Clippers it looked like such hard work every time they've taken a lead in this series. And I think generally the team that's had more ease, usually over a 7-game series, will win. But I just constantly lament the fact that in the last 6 minutes of a game, constantly, they totally forget about Serge Ibaka. They act like they only have 2 viable offensive options. And they have more than 3, by the way. Right. But they especially have a third. And, you know, I get to do play-by-play with Hubie Brown sometimes. And Hubie always talks about this. He said, a coach, you know, what you do is you get your 3 best guys the ball in their 3 favorite spots in the final 6 minutes against top defenses. That's what you got to do. And for whatever reason, the Thunder don't even try to do that with Serge Ibaka. And it drives me nuts because it makes it so easy to defend them. Think about last night. Think about what big shot was hit. Who hit it? It was Chris Bosh who hit that shot that won that game for the Heat. Because Miami didn't just play 2-man game with Wade and LeBron and that's it and ignore all other options. And at this point, I just don't know. I'll pick the Thunder, but I don't know if I can have confidence that they will ever break away from that at the end of games.
I'm picking the Thunder, and I'm doing so with very little conviction. I mean, very little conviction. The conviction I have is that they're at home, and they have the best player on the court every time they step out on the court with the LA Clippers, and that's Kevin Durant. But I'm doing it with little conviction. I'm not going to be surprised if the Clippers win tonight. I'm not going to be surprised if OKC wins tonight. I think it's by far the most entertaining of all the series that are going on right now. And I'll say this, whoever wins tonight's game is going to go on and win that series and advance on to the Western Conference Finals. Whoever wins tonight's game.
Where does Jackson come in all this?
Where does Reggie Jackson come in?
He's not coming in at all. That's the problem.
I think that's what I'm talking about. With more than
I don't think. I mean, Serge has a responsibility to trying to check Blake Griffin. I'm thinking, where does Jackson and Jeremy Lamb? Because during the season, Jeremy Lamb and Jackson basically were James Harden. Together, they became one James Harden, and then not being
That's what I'm talking about. There's a lack of trust because there's this stigma that at the key moment, the ball needs to be shot by Durant or by Westbrook. No, the ball needs to be in their hands. It doesn't need to be shot by them. You can create opportunities for those other guys like a Reggie Jackson.
But they are limited offensively. They are, especially when they have Kendrick Perkins out there. That's on Scott Brooks.
And sometimes he just shouldn't be out there.
Right, yeah. Let's move to the East. Game 5, Pacers-Wizards. Pacers currently lead the series 3-1. Roy Hibbert, it's a tale of 2 centers right there. Which Hibbert shows up tonight?
I say the good Hibbert shows up.
I think the good Hibbert's back.
Right? I think he's back. You look at, now, his last 3 games, he's averaged 19 and 7 in this series. His previous 8 this postseason, he averaged 4 and 3. That is a stark contrast. And I think, you know, all along we were wondering, well, what's going on with Indiana? Why have they lost? And people trying to get on Paul George. I got all my people in New York like, you said Paul George is better than Melo. Yeah, I still do. Did you watch his game the other day? He is a complete player. What happened was Roy Hibbert. That is as simple as that. That was the Pacers' problems, period, the end. Their center, who played like an all-star over the last couple of years, became a 0. Well, now he's back to being an all-star, and I think he found something. I think that corner has been turned, and mentally he's back.
It's been 4 out of 5 good games now for Hibbert. You're right. So he had a good game 7 against Atlanta, struggled game 1, and then the last 3 he's been really good. And listen, the Heat in the Eastern Conference, the guy, not the team, the guy they fear the most is Roy Hibbert because he gives LeBron and the rest of the team headaches when they get to the paint. I think we're seeing a better Roy Hibbert now, Scoop, simply because the matchup is better. And old cliche, it's all about matchups in the NBA. He was playing against the center in the Atlanta Hawks, who was drawing him out to the three-point line, and now he's playing against two traditional guys in Gortat and Drew Gooden, which is keeping him in the paint, and he's more confident and he's playing better. And I really believe, I don't know why, and I'm not really into this kind of intangible stuff, but the fact that they let Andrew Bynum go, and by go, like, get away from the team, because I think Roy was sitting there going, hey, I'm a two-time All-Star. You know, I'm in contention for Defensive Player of the Year, and you're bringing in Andrew Bynum. Why? We're fine over here. And I think the fact that they got rid of Andrew Bynum, that and a little fishing trip, Scoop, is what fixed. What fixed Roy Hibbert.
I'm surprised Larry Bird has some hair left, because I'd be spilling. I couldn't, because it's not just what happened in the playoffs in the matchup against Atlanta. This thing goes back to mid-March. It goes way. It was a bad matchup, but it still was consistent with what he was doing in the entire month of April.
Yeah,
and he just disappeared. I think
Bynum was there,
and that's what I think. I think that may be it. But you can't. If I'm Larry Bird, I can't have a player that's that fragile. That just a little push like that takes him over.
But that's who he is. Say, what are you going to do? You're going to release him? I mean, that's who. That's improvement.
Then how do you protect yourself from him getting injured and not having somebody to back him up?
Well, I mean,
you know, but you have to have somebody there.
Jan Mahimi's a better option than Andrew Bynum at this point, anyway. But the one thing with everybody brings up the matchup, and I understand he gets pulled out of the paint, you know, and he did in the last series.
Rebound.
But that's what happens against Miami. This is my biggest problem with that. That's what Chris Bosh does too. Yet Roy Hibbert managed to act like Hakeem Olajuwon against the Heat. So I don't think the matchup played as much a role as him just being right mentally. Even though, it drew him out of the paint, so did Chris Bosh, and he still manages to contest LeBron and Wade at the rim.
And don't say anything. That's the other problem I had with this. You know,
well, he's apologized for that. He admitted he was wrong.
Okay.
Well, he said, "Hey, there's a lot of selfish guys in this locker room," and he has since apologized for that. Is that that's what you're referring to?
I'm definitely.
You just want him to shut up and play basketball?
Hey, yeah, please. Please, because I would, like I say, I feel Larry Bird should have no hair left, you know, but if I'm Larry Bird, I want that Roy Hibbert to stay exactly like he is right now, you know, but I don't want to be having to walking on eggshells like, okay, I can't make a move because I don't want to upset him because he could go into a tailspin again. Play ball, man, you know, seriously, play ball. I can't walk around like this.
Bird's got his own issues, man. I mean, Bird traded Kawhi Leonard to get George Hill, and George Hill's a liability on that team, man.
He's already forgotten about that one. He wants nothing to do with that.
With the first pick in the 2014 NFL Draft, the Houston Texans select Jadeveon Clowney, defensive end, South Carolina.
All right, we're back. Ryan Ruocco, John Weiner, Scoop Jackson. We're all having a good time here. We already talked about quarterback projections. Now let's move outside of the quarterback position. Top non-QB draft picks, as expected, Jadeveon Clowney went #1 to the Texans and was actually the first defensive player drafted #1 overall since Mario Williams in 2006. He hopes to be a Hall of Famer one day. What does the future hold for Clowney, John?
I think it's a good future. I don't know if it's a great future. Life is all about, for me at least, all about expectations. Right. Okay, and where you set those expectations. You go into a movie, you think it's going to be bad. Chances are it's going to be pretty good and exceed your expectations. You go to a movie and you think it's going to be great. Chances are it's not going to be as good as you thought it was going to be, and it will fall below your expectations. When you talk about Clowney, you're talking like, you're hearing names like Lawrence Taylor, and that's setting the bar way too high. So I think he's going to be good. I just don't think he's going to be Lawrence Taylor, but I think he's going to be pretty good.
Well, and ever?
No, I don't think we'll ever see another Lawrence Taylor. Ever.
Ever. And the other part of it is, like, Mario Williams, I mean, he's been a really good, at times, great defensive end in his career, right? Is he a Hall of Famer? I mean, no, he's not a Hall of Fame. I mean, you need to be able to play the pass as well as the run, like a Michael Strahan, for example. Right. You know, I mean, that is a guy who stuffed the run his entire career while also getting at the quarterback. And when you're talking about getting to that next level, we just had Alfred Morris in here, right? And he was talking about how there really isn't that much talent separation when it comes to this league. And so it does become about cohesiveness and those sort of intangibles. And I understand that Jadeveon, however we've decided to actually pronounce his first name, Jadeveon Clowney's, his talent actually may exceed what we are used to, and not really even be in the same stratosphere. But at the end of the day, if you don't have that motor, if you don't have that constant motivation, if you don't have all those other things, you're not going to be a Hall of Famer. You may be a Pro Bowler here and there, and I think that's kind of what I expect. But in order for me to say you're going to be one of the greatest ever, I can't have a guy who's playing an entire season thinking about where he's going to be next year, because I know he's going to run into those same opportunities when his contract's coming up in the NFL as well. So maybe it's different once he gets to the pros. He's a young guy. I don't want to completely dismiss that notion, but I can't project Hall of Fame at this point, seeing what I just saw last year where there was no production anywhere near what we expected at South Carolina.
Yeah, I think the one thing he has working on his behalf that Mario didn't have when he got drafted in Texas is that he has J.J. Watt there, so it's going to be,
good point.
He's not going to be the key guy to be keyed in on. You already have a Pro Bowler right there that, you know, they're going to have to pay attention to. So he's going to have more room, more leverage to do his thing because he's not that key guy. And he got Romeo down there as a defensive coordinator. So that's not a bad person to start with also to teach you the game. So if he stays there, you know, which he probably will stay there, and if J.J. stays healthy and he has Romeo still there coaching him, that's a better start than most rookies ever have to build upon. So that Hall of Fame thing may not be out of stretch because this foundation right now that he has is pretty solid.
But it's just hard. I'm sorry, it's just hard to project there. You're right. It's hard to project because are you getting Jadeveon Clowney from his freshman year, or are you getting the guy from his sophomore season? And if you're getting the guy from the sophomore season, I mean, he's lucky if he makes a Pro Bowl, to be honest.
Right, but that's what encouragement. That's what a coach will come in.
Well, and that also is where your point makes sense about just the increased attention he saw last year in South Carolina. You can't necessarily give him that kind of attention when you're playing with J.J. Watt on that line. Yeah.
So what's a successful season for him then?
That's a good question. I don't know if we could put a number on it, but it's hard to qualify impact. You know what I'm saying? It's hard. I say this: if he gets a successful season, if he makes a Pro Bowl.
I think it's
to me, that's a successful season.
This is where, when I look at defensive linemen, what I judge success is, like, am I watching you? Am I not watching the quarterback when the ball is snapped? Like, Jason Pierre-Paul's second year, I was just watching him to see him beat up left tackles. And I know he's just not that guy anymore because I'm no longer interested in watching him at the line. It's not entertaining to me. You know, if I'm watching Houston Texan games before the initial curiosity, when that wears off, late in the season, and I'm like, I need to just see this guy beat somebody off the line, then I'm like, okay, he's become an impact force, somebody you have to game plan.
It's the LT factor. It's the Lawrence Taylor factor. You were just fixated on LT the entire game. He's the only guy you watched. There were other guys, Carl Banks and Gary Reasons, but you just watched Lawrence Taylor. I think a Pro Bowl is a pretty good thing. If he makes a Pro Bowl in his first season, that's a good season. The team's not going to be good because the team doesn't have a quarterback. So if he makes a Pro Bowl in his first season, I think it's a pretty successful season.
That's exactly what I was saying. You look at other situations. You're talking about Michael Strahan, and we're talking about Lawrence Taylor. Carl Banks is a good example. O.C. Umenyiora is a good example. It's like, look, what impact did you have on the game? We're keying on one guy because he's a superstar, but what impact did you have? And that's how you kind of judge the season.
Yeah, J.J. Watt probably one of those guys, too.
Yeah.
All right, wide receiver Sammy Watkins went to the Bills as the 4th overall pick, according to NFL.com. The Browns came close to drafting him, but passed. Watkins' former coach, Dabo Swinney, compared him to Michael Jordan before the draft. What is the...
There's a comparison. You said LT now. That's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. What are the expectations for Sammy Watkins there? What's the future hold for him?
I think it's big. You know, and you got E.J. Manuel coming back healthy and seeing what they do down there. It could be... Sky's the limit. I'm not going to put him in the Calvin Johnson conversation yet. You know, I'm not going to put him in the Larry Fitzgerald conversation yet. It's way too early.
You can't.
But you know, to have a second-year QB and a wide receiver come up and build together, you know, I like it. You know, it's going to be hard because you're going to have to deal with some DBs as a corners that are really going to give him a lot of attention because there's not that much for them to work with, but they can build on it.
You know, I want to put him in the Larry Fitzgerald conversation.
Already? Already? Are you serious?
Listen, what? Give me a second, guys. I swear I'll explain. No. Here's why. Here's why. We have seen with Larry Fitzgerald how as great a receiver as you can possibly watch can be totally neutered by horrible quarterback production. And that is why I put him in that category. As much as I think Sammy Watkins will, I mean, eventually, yeah, you still get your numbers. But if Larry Fitzgerald had played with the, you know, slew of mediocre quarterbacks or horrible quarterbacks he has, you know, for his entire career instead of just the last few years, would he be a Hall of Famer? Probably not, from Pro Bowls here and there. But you need both. And E.J. Manuel, you heard that the Bills were a little sour on him at the end of the season, even though Doug Marrone said, no, he will be our starter. There is no definite quarterback in place there that I have confidence in, so I can't just project ahead and say, well, Sammy Watkins is going to be a Hall of Fame wide receiver. I think it's a really good chance because he was the top wide receiver, clear cut in one of the greatest wide receiver classes we've seen in decades, but I still need to see a quarterback who can get him the ball.
But that's interesting because it brings up a larger discussion. Does the quarterback make the wide receivers? Do the wide receivers make the quarterback?
Symbiotic.
But Randy Moss had incredible seasons with Spurgeon Wynn throwing him the football.
Yeah.
Like Randall Cunningham, like advanced, like late this year.
Cunningham could still chuck it, though.
But Randy Moss made any quarterback great,
That's
except
true.
when he went to Oakland and he didn't care because he didn't want to play there.
Right.
The first thing I think of when I think of Sammy Watkins, and now as it relates to Josh Gordon, who we talked about earlier, do the Browns regret not taking Sammy Watkins now that they know they probably need Sammy Watkins? I think he's going to be fabulous. I think Buffalo gave up too much to get him, to be honest with you. They moved up 5 spots, gave up a first-round pick for next year and a 4th rounder this year. But I do think Sammy Watkins is going to be a special player.
Especially to get someone eventually to go alongside of him and balance out the field.
Not Robert Woods?
Huh?
Not Robert Woods over there? He's not that guy?
I mean, he's okay. You know, I'm thinking like once again Pro Bowl level. You know, somebody, some veteran, you know, 5 or 6 years in the league that happens to fall into Buffalo's hands to take a lot of that pressure off him. The same way we talked about J.J. Watt going to Houston. It's like let's take the pressure off of him. And once he finds that player, you know, that Brandon Marshall coming to Chicago is a classic example of like, how do we get this veteran player come over? If he gets a Brandon Marshall play alongside, then you're going to see him go.
All right, let's talk about the other rookie wideout. Mike Evans, drafted at number 7 by the Bucs. He's 6'5". He's the first wide receiver that height or taller drafted since Calvin Johnson in 2007. What does the future hold for Mike Evans?
I like Mike Evans. I like him a lot. There were so many times where I watched a ton of Texas A&M this year just because, Manziel, he's the rock star. And there's so many times where I'm sitting there thinking, as great as Johnny is and as entertaining as he is, how many of these ducks would be picked if it wasn't for Mike Evans? And he reminds me a little bit of Plaxico Burress or Braylon Edwards at his best.
That's
where
a CO in him as well.
Yeah, but I feel like Owens is a little bit faster, though. Like, he had a gear he could hit. For me, Evans is a guy, I've never looked at him and be like, oh, he's burning across the field, yet somehow he finds a way to get open, has those great hands, has that great reach, can go and get it in traffic, can separate enough to get the football. And I just feel like that's kind of who he reminds me of. I never watched Plaxico and said, ooh, that guy's fast. But somehow he separated enough, And okay, you could throw it up in traffic and get it done. And Josh McCown is the same situation he had in Chicago now, where he has 2 huge receivers to throw to. We've already seen that he knows how to do that.
As far as his future is concerned, I wish we were discussing his future with the Jets, because as a Jet fan, that's the guy I desperately wanted them to move up and try to get. I'm with Ryan. I think when we look back at this draft 2 or 3 years from now, 4 years from now, I think Evans is going to be the best player to come out of this draft.
Wow.
And let's be honest, we're all guessing here. Like, I don't know if he's going to be good. None of us know if he's going to be good. The GMs, the coaches. I don't even know if Evans thinks or knows he's going to be good. But I was so impressed with him. He's such a big physical wide receiver, and I think that's where the wide receiver position has been trending for quite some time now in the NFL. And I think, again, when we look back, he will be the best player to come out of this draft.
I think he has the best thing happen for him where he has Vincent Jackson there to learn from. Very similar. You talk about Randy Moss. The thing that made Randy Moss great wasn't a quarterback, but he had Chris Carter there to learn the game from. Vincent Jackson, I think, is going to be Chris Carter to Mike Evans, so that's why I think he's going to benefit.
It's been an eventful, that's the word I'm trying to say, month for Heisman Trophy winner Jameis Winston after he was cited for stealing seafood from a Publix supermarket. Here's what Winston's father, Antonor Winston, told USA Today Sports when asked if he thought his son learned from his mistake. We hope so. Not only him, I think it should show the university and us. I think we probably kind of dropped the ball on that a little bit. He's supposed to have somebody around him 24/7. He's a Heisman Trophy winner, so he's definitely not supposed to be by himself. Ryan, we'll start with you. How concerned are you about Winston moving forward?
Well, I mean, I'm not, overall concerned on the big picture of Jameis Winston, but I think his father is totally right about needing, somebody around him, needing some sort of handler, whatever it is. Because if you think about it, the Publix incident, right? Apparently this is basically a cafeteria for all the Florida State players. But Jameis Winston is the one who gets bagged with it because he's the one who everybody knows. Somebody there, oh, that's a Heisman Trophy winner. I'm going to call him out for taking the food that we let every other Florida State player take. Same thing with, he's stealing soda somewhere. Well, he's recognizable now. How many people, I'm sure whoever called him out for stealing soda from Burger King or whatever the alleged incident was, I'm sure they see tons of people going to those fountains and stealing soda or whatever it is. But they recognize Jameis Winston. Sure. He needs somebody. All the things he's doing are pretty, they're pretty college routine things. The alleged rape aside, that is a completely different case. But when you talk about the BB gun stuff or what's gone on with Publix, they're all pretty basic, right? For kids 18, 19, 20 years old. You need someone to constantly be on you and articulate to you that you are not like other 18, 19, and 20-year-olds anymore.
Exactly.
That has not gone through to him yet.
I mean, people are going to wince at the notion that a 19-year-old, a college kid, should have a handler, a bodyguard, a team surrounding him. But to your point, you're right. He's not your normal college kid. Right. He is famous, more famous than 95%, I'm guessing, of professional athletes. He's the Heisman Trophy winner. Right. And for me, it's not so much Jameis needs to make better decisions. He does. There's no question about it, on his own without a handler being there. But for me, it's more about the people, and this is why I think he needs the handler, and I'm okay with it, and I agree with his dad. It's more about the people who are going to come after Jameis, who are going to come at Jameis Winston, than it is what Jameis Winston is going to do next. He needs protection from the people who are going to come at him, Scoop, because they're going to come at him from every angle.
I know, but here's the deal. The person that, one, you can't have somebody on him 24/7.
Why not?
Nope, you can't. While he's sleeping, what they're going to do? Sit outside his dorm room and you're going to hire security? The NCAA is going to do that for this one dude? Look, he needs to know who he is. It's more important about him knowing who he is than everybody else around him knowing that's Jameis. Jameis Winston needs to know he is Jameis Winston. So, yes, I can't do everything that everybody else can do because I am who I am. There has to be some accountability for him.
Man, it's easy to say, man. Think back to when you were 20 and the accountability.
But I wasn't him. When I said I'm not him.
But you know what? He's still 20.
Yeah, I don't care.
You know, somebody needs to articulate that to him and drive it home. But you know what? I think we take for granted because we are all in the media. We understand because we see every single story, the way it's poked out and prodded. We understand that, I mean, even you, Scoop, right? There are certain pictures you're not going to put out there. But somebody your age who just isn't on TV, isn't in the media, would have no problem doing. You're aware of that. They may not be. Jameis, I think, is getting now indoctrinated into that society. He needs someone to help guide him along.
But he knows his value. I think at some point he knows he's the one that has something to lose. Everybody else around me doesn't have anything. I have something to lose, so I just can't.
But I don't think he realizes those infractions are things that jeopardize what you're worried about him losing.
And guys, this is a weird thing we do when guys achieve fame at such an early age. So because he's achieved this fame, and part of it's on us, the media. We have built this guy into a larger-than-life figure.
And he's
accepted it. We're going to strip him of the opportunity to be 19 and 20 years old.
You know what? If you want to do things that are going to basically harm your brand and harm yourself, and you can't control that, then I hate to say it, don't take the award that comes with it. If he knew he wanted, I'm not saying he's acting a fool. I'm just saying if he doesn't want to take the responsibility of being Jameis Winston, the Heisman Trophy winner, don't take the Heisman Trophy.
He should have that responsibility. But do you think it's so unreasonable that he has somebody who can constantly get that message through to him of like, this is something that other people can do at your age, but I'm sorry, man, you can't. You're in a different league now. It's happened pretty quickly. In a year, this has all happened.
Okay, fine. I don't think that he shouldn't. I don't think he should not have that, but I don't think there should be somebody around him 24/7 to tell him that.
They can let him sleep without being there.
So what happens? He gets up and decides to.
Okay, then he's a knucklehead. But that's different than just being in a Publix and taking food where you think you're allowed to.
You have to take some responsibility of your action at some point in life. And a 20-year-old who's in school, he may have a Heisman Trophy, maybe a big deal. If you can't stop yourself from doing dumb stuff that's going to hurt you, you're not hurting anybody.
I generally agree with
that. You have to do that.
We all agree with that. But one of the things is, and Jameis Winston knows this, is no matter what he does, as long as it's within reason, okay, within reason, he doesn't do anything that's tragic or terrible, he knows, regardless of what he does, he's going to be the #1 pick in the draft next year. And he knows that.
And then he can act a fool.
Johnny Football has already made his mark on the NFL marketplace. Manziel's #2 Browns jersey is the best-selling jersey on NFLshop.com since April 1st. And LeBron, seen here, was rocking the new gear. But we want to know what should be the top jerseys in the NFL. Ryan, we'll start with you.
Yeah, really scientific equation we used here. It was just called like awesome names and cool uniforms. So my #5 would have to be Cam Chancellor. Fantastic last name. Love the Seattle jersey. Ha ha Clinton Dix 4 because his first name is laughing at his last. Victor Cruz 3rd because, you know, the salsa, and he's my boy. Johnny Manziel. And then the best name, Frosty Rucker. I mean, come on. That has got to be the greatest name in the NFL, Frosty Rucker. He's #1.
It's like a milkshake. Tyler Klutz. I go Tyler Klutz #5. I love fullbacks. I love a good football name. Tyler Klutz does both that for me. I can't pronounce this guy's name, which is why I love this name. Who-Man. I'm going to go with Who-Man because I love a good nickname. Mike Pouncey is 3rd for me. I always promise promised myself that if I found someone who has less self-awareness than I do, that I'm going to buy his jersey. So I go with Pouncey. Darrelle Revis used to be my favorite player. I love the guy. I just don't know what jersey to get for Darrelle Revis. He's on a new team every year. And finally, Scoop, just for you, buddy, LeBron James and the Cleveland Browns jersey.
Ride-out jersey. All right, cool. Mine is real quick. I think Adrian Peterson, but it should be his nickname all day. That'll be classic.
Okay.
NFL do what the NBA does. Richard Sherman, because he's Richard Sherman. Deshaun Jackson, Washington Redskins jersey, not for Deshaun, but for the last name Jackson. Gotta have one of those. You know what I'm saying? And of course, Ha Clinton Dix.
Nice.
All spelled out in Green Bay. These are all spelled out on the back. And of course, since we had the earlier conversation, Johnny. Gotta have Johnny football. Gotta have Johnny football. Because he's starting.
And it's got to read football on the
He's
back.
got to read Johnny
Solid
football.
names, fellas, and great to have you guys. Ryan, Ruocco, John Weiner, Scoop Jackson, fantastic.
Thanks for having us.
Right?
Man.
It was fun. Like I called the shot.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. Catch First Take at 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific on ESPN2.